Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer. Welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and welcome back to somewhere on our trip from San Simon, Arizona to Clovis, New Mexico. And it looks like, I'd say we're about halfway, a little bit more than halfway, about 60% of the way there. So, I believe we had to make a little detour right around here somewhere. Yeah, we got rerouted just a bit. But we're going to head into Clovis. And Clovis is kind of a weird, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a kind of a hard town to navigate in. So, let's get the Viper 389 fired up. Oh, lovely. Beautiful. We'll hop right in here. We don't have a GPS on the dash, so we do need to bring a map in. We've only got about, maybe 15 minutes to get in, and we'll see how long it takes us to get through Clovis. Brake is off. Here we go. So I wanted to talk to you this week about game reviews and where you're at with that. I don't know how you feel about game reviews. Game reviews are tricky, and this is what I have realized. This is why I think they're tricky. So when I say us and them in this context, I'm talking about sim gamers, right? That's us. And them, which is pretty much everybody else. Fantasy gamers, RPG gamers, spreadsheet gamers, tactical gamers, shooters, all that sort of stuff. That's them. And we're on the simulation side, right? So something that I've noticed about simulation gaming, particularly in racing, is I think simulation gamers are very much more willing to trade away graphics in exchange for accurate physics, realistic physics and realistic gameplay and immersive gameplay. That's my observation. I don't know if you agree with that. As always, let me know in the comments. But I think, when I look at the best sim racing game out there, in terms of physics and accuracy, it's arguably iRacing. If it's not iRacing, then I would give it to R Factor or Race Room. But the most immersive racing sim, for me, is definitely Project Cars 2, which everybody agrees does not have the most accurate physics. But it does have extremely immersive graphics, particularly like the fog and the rain and stuff. So you see what I'm saying. I think as sim gamers, we are willing to make that trade-off. And I feel like I don't want to say it's just the opposite on the fantasy and shooter side, but I feel like on that side, immersion is sort of what's most critical. And then the gameplay, I don't want to say it takes a back seat, but it sort of takes a back seat to the immersion factor, graphics and that sort of thing. So there's some new games coming out, and I've been off camera. I've been playing games that are not sim games, and I'm definitely not going to bring any of those into the channel. It just doesn't fit. But I have been playing them, and there's some new ones coming out, and I've been watching some review videos. I've been watching gameplay of these betas. And I've also been checking out some review videos. And this is what I'm finding about review videos, and something that I find fascinating is they always seem to be negative. And that got me thinking about all the different ways that a game can be wrong, right? But there's only one way that a game can be right, and it's sort of like a movie. Like, there's a lot of ways to screw up a movie and a lot of things to complain about. But there's really only one way to get a movie right, and when you do get a movie right, there's maybe less to say about it. If that makes sense? Like, it's easier to complain than it is to... and I don't mean it's easier, like it's an easier thing to do. I guess it's just more interesting. It's more interesting to hear somebody complaining about a bad movie than it is to hear them going on and on about how good a movie is. That makes sense. I think that makes sense. So I think it's the same thing in gaming. To me, it's both informative and entertaining to hear somebody not necessarily bashing a game, right? But listing its deficiencies. Because those are things that I need to know before I buy it. So if a game is great, I will not regret my purchase. But if a game does have serious problems, then you see what I'm saying? Like, me being wrong about the quality of a game can cost me money, because money I spend on something that has no value to me, that's just wasted money. So I guess a bad review to me is the only review that matters. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. But here's the problem with gaming, and I don't know if this is concentrating. I don't know if this is a problem with movies. I think it may be in the age of the internet, but it's hard to say. You know, with social media influencers and all that sort of crossover gray area. But here's the thing. A lot of times when I see gameplay, and specifically recently when I see gameplay of these new games, it's a game that the publisher has sent over to that YouTuber, right? They got it early. And the gameplay is always flawless, and the YouTuber has nothing but great things to say about that game. Okay. And then you watch a review of exactly the same game, and they have nothing but bad things to say. And they show you, you know, the gameplay is choppy, the servers keep crashing. It's a hot mess. And that's just the technical stuff. Then the actual gameplay mechanics could be seriously flawed. And I think, well, apparently that YouTuber that got a free copy isn't having any of those problems. Well, sure they are. Of course they are. They're just not talking about them because they're getting games ahead of time. They're getting games for free, right? And they're using the fact that they're one of the only YouTubers playing that game to draw traffic to their channel. Okay, good on them, man. If I could make a living playing video games, I totally would. I haven't made a dime at this yet, but I wish I could. I'd love to. And I think any YouTuber that says otherwise, they're just lying to you. Everybody wants to make money playing video games. So I'll say it out loud. Some people won't. Say, I just do it because I love it. Yeah, I do love it, but I would love to make money at it too. So if a big-time developer was sending me video games and saying, play these on your YouTube channel, and because I had that game early, I got a lot of traffic and I made money, no, I'm not going to say anything bad about that game. Moment, concentrating. But that doesn't make the game good. That just means I'm not saying anything bad about it. So on the other side, then you have those reviews where they just tear the game to pieces. Now, I'll admit that, again, in the age of social media influence and, you know, how cynical we all are, I'll admit that it's possible that that game is not that bad, and for one reason or another, financial reason or another, that YouTuber is tearing that game down. Right? You get what I'm saying? Like, another publisher might literally be paying that person to say bad things. Maybe not. Maybe not. But let's just assume that it's reliable, that's a legit review. That to me means a lot more than seeing gameplay from somebody that got the game for free. And I guess what I'm saying is, it's like the only reviews that you can trust are bad reviews. So I don't know where that leaves us as gamers in general, not sim gamers or RPG gamers or anything else, but just as gamers, I don't know where that leaves us. I know there are some really reputable reviewers out there, but I know in print media for years there was kind of a big controversy because you would see, like, Car and Driver, right, would have a great review of a car, fantastic review of a car, sir. And then in the center of that issue of Car and Driver, there would be like a 2-page or a gatefold or a fold-out spread for that car. And it's like, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. Did they pay for that review? And the pushback is always, nah, man, but we knew that that's what the review was going to say. And so we capitalized on that by placing an ad for our car in a magazine that had a great review for our car. Yeah, okay. That's what you say. but it's been kind of an open secret. It's same thing in broadcast television advertising. You know, you can't bribe a news department to run a story or not run a story, but what you can do is buy a lot of advertising time on stations that are owned by that syndicate, by that affiliate. And that's another kind of an open secret. So there are some big time websites and magazines that review video games. They give, 9 out of 10, they give 5 stars. They're mostly reliable. I think they're mostly reputable. They've got a reputation that they're trying to protect. But the moral hazard, man, that greed, the money. So I don't know. I think what I'm getting at is that the only reviews I trust are bad ones. And I don't know if that's a good place to be as a gamer. But I think it's different, like I was saying earlier. I think it's different because the different types of gameplay and the different types of gamer on the simulation side versus the more the fantasy side, the shooter side. Something that's really interesting that I've been coming across, because there are a couple shooter games coming out. I'm not going to buy either one of them. That my machine won't run them, and I've got enough games as it is, which is a weird thing to say. But there was a review of a game that's coming out, and they were talking about the guns. There's a lot of guns in the game. And they were kind of bashing like the way that mechanic was deployed. I was listening to this review, and here's the thing about guns in games. You want to have a lot of them, and you want to make them collectible because you want people to be like scouring all around the map and traveling and doing things, looking for loot. Okay, that's cool. But because a lot of RPG gamers and shoot and loot gamers they used to be spreadsheet gamers, they used to be like tabletop pen and paper gamers, they're going to seek out the mathematically most superior gun. Well, there's 2 ways that a developer can sort of solve that problem. One way is to have all the guns be equal. Now, to be fair, there's different types of guns for different types of applications. So there's assault rifles and submachine guns and shotguns and sniper rifles. So it's not that every single gun would be the same, but per class, regardless of what kind of gun it was, they would all be kind of equalized. And the goal would be that there would be no mathematically superior gun, because if there was, everybody would just go get that one and use it. And it got me thinking about parity in motorsport. And Formula One sort of struggles with that. I know NASCAR in the United States, NASCAR made a mess of that in the 1990s, because basically what they did was made every car identical mechanically. So there were different aerodynamic profiles, but then cars would be ballasted and have different horsepower restrictions, and basically every car was supposed to run exactly the same grip, same power, same aerodynamic, whatever. You see what I'm saying? Every car would be exactly the same speed and have the same grip. And that's getting pretty close to spec racing. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term spec racing. Spec racing is when you have identical cars or motorcycles or go-karts or whatever, and it's a way of evaluating and determining who the best driver is. So it's typically used in like development leagues and junior leagues. So rather than seeing like whose parents have the most money, you're seeing which kid is actually the best potential race car driver. So it has value to sponsors and schools and leagues and people that want to recruit talented drivers. And there's not really much of it at the top level. And I think that's the reason that NASCAR really blew it with that effort, is they tried to make everything the same so that on any given weekend, any driver would have a chance of winning, or so that no driver would be at a significant disadvantage. But that's not really what people want, So they made a mess of it. The NFL struggles with the same thing. I think a lot of leagues do, sport leagues. But what I'm getting at is, if you have every gun the same, right, then there's no difference. And what's the point of having different guns if they're all exactly the same? And if you have one that's better, right? So I think what some developers try to do is they do have the guns different. Well, mounting the curb here as I'm trying to keep our trailer from crossing the dotted line there. So I think what some developers do is they try to have different guns that work better for different playing styles. And again, that got me thinking about sim gaming, because we sort of have the same problem in SimWorld. And using American Truck as an example, all these trucks are basically identical. You just pick the one you like. And you can't bump the horsepower up. On the ATS side, you really don't get, I guess you can do the three drive axles in a mod truck. I don't know if any base trucks in ATS even have three drive axles. But for the most part, any truck will haul any cargo other than some of the extremely heavy special transport and the stuff from heavy cargo. But for the most part, you just drive the truck you want. And I think that in the fantasy and shooter genre, that's a problem, because then if everything's identical, what's the point of going to find things? You're just going to find the things that you like. But on some level, this is just, these are all generic. They're all exactly the same. Or, as I said earlier, if there was one vehicle that's like mathematically better, or one weapon that's mathematically better, then everybody just uses that, and that's equally boring. So these are the problems that we as gamers expect publishers to sort out. And I think the racing genre, the sim racing genre, is a good example, because in something like iRacing, which is extremely competitive, and there's actually money changing hands now. There's sponsored drivers, there's sponsored leagues. People are making money at this stuff. And once money gets involved, people get really, really serious. So if you want to compete, if you want to win a championship, you want the fastest car. Well, there's that parity thing again. If all the cars are identical, then it doesn't matter which one I take. But if one is faster than another, or has better grip, or is a car that is more likely to win, then obviously that's the car that everybody's going to drive, and that's not very interesting for fans. So I think, the way you try to sort it out, both in the real world and in an e-racing league, or iRacing, as you do, is you have different cars that suit different driving styles. And, the thing, again, using sim trucking as an example, I've never had a problem with fuel economy in this game. I've never had a problem with tire noise or some of the other things. Now, I don't know if they wanted to make those things sort of more relevant, more important in the game, and they just never got around to it. But there's never been a time where I thought, I need to get my fuel efficiency up, or I'm going to go bankrupt. It just doesn't work that way. Or grip with tires in the rain. Maybe if they set it up so that like every 14 game days you had, I don't want to call it a review, but maybe the books came in, right? You see what I'm saying? Like every 2 weeks you get a fuel bill for you and all your drivers. So instead of it being, a few $100s or a few €100 at a time every time you fill up, that every 14 game days you would get a fuel bill for $20,000, and realize that you could take it down to 15,000 if you got that fuel efficiency up, or whatever. And the same with hiring drivers, who's the most efficient driver, that sort of stuff. But for the most part, right, like, you see what I'm getting at. It's like this stuff just doesn't matter. And I guess this seems wrong. Do I want to turn down here? All right, well, I'm doing it. It's like we can get away with a lot in something like sim trucking that you can't necessarily get away with in something like iRacing. So I'm curious how that would all translate across to the fantasy or shooter genre. But again, I think I'm repeating myself at this point, but it's like, yeah, if one is better than another, then everybody's going to take the one that's better. If one is not better than another, then what am I doing? What am I looking for? Strictly cosmetic at that point. I'm just looking for a vehicle or a gun or a sword or whatever it is that you're looking for. You're just looking for it because you like it. It has no real relevance. So that's a big problem to solve. for a game developer. And we are getting so demanding as gamers. We really are, which is a good thing. These games are expensive. You know, I see games that are, you know, over $100 with a season pass and some DLC. And it's like, yeah, my expectations are going to be high. I don't know why that's a magic number, but $100 for an entertainment product that's a decent chunk of money. Yeah, I will have expectations at that point. And when you're getting into, you know, $500+ for a gaming rig and $1,500+ for a gaming PC or a gaming laptop, yeah, damn right we're going to have high expectations. So let's do this. I don't think we've backed a trailer in. In quite a while. So first thing is, can we... obviously we have to flip this around. Can we do it in one swing, or we got to do a little intentional jackknifing? So yeah, you see what I'm getting at. It's tricky out there to know what you're getting into, and there's so much money on the line with these games that I also I wouldn't say that I don't trust the developers. I mean, I don't really trust any corporation. I think that's just smart in 2019. They're all scoundrels. But I think there's also, you know, this concept of... Hang on, bump it up one gear. There's also this concept of... like reasonable expectations versus... How do I want to say this? Like, I think the idea that you would not get jammed up and totally, like, ripped off buying an entertainment product, I think that's completely reasonable. I think that you would expect any game to be, like, Game of the Year material. Any given game. No, I don't think that's reasonable. I think we know, you know, just like with movies, I think we know what we could reasonably expect to be not necessarily a blockbuster, but, you know, a solid product. Versus, this may just work. I may need to straighten it out just a tiny bit, but this might just work in one swing. Holy smokes. No. Yeah, I'm gonna have to straighten it out a little bit because it's just about to go wonky on me. But we almost got it. Almost got it in one. Okay. Not too bad. For this long wheelbase truck, not too bad. And there goes my voice as well, so perfect. No. Let's straighten her out one more time. Do it right. So yeah, I think you see what I'm getting at. I want to trust reviews and gameplay, but I feel like the only ones that I can really trust are the bad ones, and it's because those are the ones that potentially protect me from wasting money. And then we'll give it just get it in there square. Nope. Really? Okay. That was my fault. I had the tee. And I had to be fancy. But you know what? I don't know. If you're going to do something silly, you may as well do it properly. There we go. Here we go. Nice and square and beautiful. There's our tee. So, put her in neutral. Do that. Do that. Do that. Let's see how we did. Are we due for a promotion? We're not. We're getting pretty far up. I don't think we're going to get promoted for quite a while. Yeah. Oi. Still got a ways to go. Folks, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for stopping back to check out The Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of American Truck Simulator. And we'll see you next time. Take care now.